Hello everybody, Infernape Shinjo here, and welcome to another episode where I remake Ash's team. And in this video is gonna cover the Unova squad, which, if I'm not mistaken, is like 8 or 9 Pokemon that he caught in the original version. So I certainly have my work cut out for me in this one. But before I go any further, I do want to mention that this video is going to be only his Unova Pokemon, and then the next one is going to be Kalos and Alola, because I was tempted to do one for Galar, but since he's still technically traveling through the region, even though he's traveling through all of them, I could include him on, say, Dracovish for example, and then he captures it later. Plus, it's not like he's traveling through Galar in the traditional sense anyway. Plus, with his Unova team being so large, I can go into more detail on the mons I excluded and the mons that I kept. So, his original Unova team is Unpheasant, Oshawott, Pignite, Snivy, Scraggy, Leavanny, Palpitoad, Boldore, and Crocodile. Don't know why they decided to give him so many Pokemon. So, here is the team that I decided to settle on. So, I don't even know where to begin with this one because there's so much I could go for. I guess I can start with the mons that I took out. So, first noticeable one that I took out is Pignite. And this is going to be very interesting that Pignite is excluded because it's basically Chimchar plot done a second time. Except not as well in my opinion. I mean, Ash meets the Tepig early on, and it evolves while battling the trainer that abandoned it, just like in the original. But the trainer, I believe his name is Seamus in the dub, I don't even remember his name 100%. But he's only shown once and never shown again. The reason that a rivalry like Chimchar versus Paul worked is because we get to see Paul actually abandon it, and we get to see Paul multiple times in the series. This random dude that just ditches Tepig, we never see again. And at the same time, even though I like the idea to an extent of Ash having all 3 starters, I felt like it was done a bit too much. I mean, he got all 3 starters in Kanto and Johto already, and he got a majority of the starters in Sinnoh, so I feel like it'd be best just to go back to the only 2 starters in Unova. Plus, it just feels kind of weird if Ash would have a Pignite because Bianca's first mon that she's shown with is a Pignite that eventually evolves into an Emboar. So in my opinion, it just felt kind of weird that Ash has a Pignite while Bianca has an Emboar. Although I am contradicting myself here, but we'll get to that later. So the next few that I took out are Leavanny and Palpitoad. Yeah, there's really no explanation for those two other than the fact that they're underutilized. I mean, Leavanny's biggest win is against Stefan Sock in the league. And it evolves while battling Berg once, so I mean, like, I guess that's something. But like, Palpitoad? What did Palpitoad do? Besides defeat Burgundy in the one Don George tournament. And like tie with Stefan Zebstrika. I like the idea of Ash having a Leavanny and a Palpitoad because the Leavanny kind of gives me vibes of Ash's Butterfree early on, where it's a bug type that is kind of more feminine as far as the anime goes. But then Palpitoad, I just don't know what they're thinking, because Leavanny and Palpitoad do overlap types that Ash already has on his team, a grass type and a water type. But like I said, Leavanny and Palpitoad don't really get much in terms of development, and that's just what it's gonna be, because in a big roster that Ash had like Unova, there are gonna be mons that got left behind, which is unfortunate, but it did happen. And it's really making me wonder why they decided to do this, because they did the same thing in Kanto, which makes sense because Unova is essentially supposed to be a reboot of sorts. But now that I'm thinking about it, Unova does fall into the same problems that Kanto had, where mons like Kingler and Muck are very underutilized and underdeveloped. But that's really it for the mons that I took out. So let me start in with the mons that I kept. So starting from the top left, Ash's DWAT now. In my personal opinion, I felt it was a very missed opportunity that Ash's Oshawott didn't evolve at least once. Honestly, with that, they might have been able to do the Charizard plot of DWAT not obeying Ash. We already did get a little glimpse of this with Arish's Excadrill, but there were no mons in Ash's Unova squad that outright disobeyed him. I feel like a mon like Oshawott evolving to DWAT would be nice to do that, because Oshawott was more of a comedic character, so having it evolve into something that is more confrontational to Ash would be cool to see. And really, there are multiple times in the series that Ash's Oshawott could have evolved. It could have evolved while battling that Palpitoad at that one episode I mentioned earlier, or if you wanted to go this far, you could wait until the Decalar Islands where that random Oshawott festival going on or whatever, and Ash's Oshawott evolves. Or you could have it be in an important rival battle. But speaking of rival battle, let's go on to Ash's Servine. I know I mentioned earlier about Pignite not being included because it overlaps with Bianca's Pignite that evolves into Emboar. But even though Trip also started out with a Snivy, I feel like this works a lot better. They already established that Ash's Snivy and Trip's Snivy do have a bit of a rivalry. They didn't meet until Trip's is already a Servine and they battled that one time. But it would have been cool to see them kind of just go back and forth with Snivy getting the upper hand by using Attract on Servine and defeating it one time, but then Servine getting a chance to battle it again later on down the road and defeat it. And you could even have an episode where Trip has a Superior and Ash battles it with Snivy and it evolves into Servine. Kind of have a thing of Trip gets the upper hand, then Ash gets the upper hand, and then Trip gets the upper hand again. I really like the idea of Ash and Trip both having the same Pokemon, but kind of trading which one is technically stronger in that sense. But now let's go on to Scrafty. And in my opinion, I feel it's super weird that Ash's Scraggy never evolved. Maybe this is the Pokemon that could have the whole disrespect towards Ash when it evolves. But the only basis I have for this is that Ash's last mon that he hatched from an egg, which was his Phanpy, did eventually evolve into a Donphan. And they were even building Scraggy up for a time. There was that one episode where it met its evolved form and it learned High Jump Kick. And then the Focus Blast, which turned into a meme in itself because Focus Blast can never land. I just felt like it would have been perfect for Ash's Scraggy to get more practice in battle and evolve into a Scrafty. Honestly, he could have used it in the gym battle against Bryson instead of having Krokorok take the shine. Or maybe have both of them take the shine. To be fair, I'm pretty sure Ash normally used Pignite in the battle against Bryson. But since he doesn't have it in this version, he could use Scraggy instead and it actually evolve and develop. Although I don't have any notes in front of me, so I don't remember for sure if Ash actually used Scraggy in the gym battle against Bryson. If he did, then that works out better for my point because it could easily evolve. And especially now, since Iris's Axew did evolve, it just makes sense that Ash's Scraggy will evolve now, right? Then you got Crocodile, easily the best mon on Ash's Unova team. But to be fair, that bar isn't really raised too high. But yeah, Crocodile, very solid mon of Ash's. You could even keep it the same way that Ash captures it, evolves it, learns new moves. Then you move on to Gigalith. And in all honesty, I'm still surprised that I kept Boldore on Ash's team. But I've been saying this for the longest time, that this is just so much of a missed opportunity in Unova. This is probably the biggest thing you're going to remember from me saying in this Unova episode. There's just so much missed opportunity. Ash's Boldore normally evolves by trading. And Ash's rival Trip also had a Girder, which evolves by trading. So if they wanted to do something in an episode where Ash runs into Trip Trip says I'm trying to find somebody to evolve my girder with, sees Ash's Bulldor, and say, hey, can you do me a favor and trade this so both of our mons can evolve, and then we can just trade them back? It does sound a bit out of Trip's character, but maybe Trip can kind of mellow out a bit before the league, so he can actually give Ash a hand by trading to evolve both of their mons. It's not like it's really that crazy to think, because they literally have an episode in Unova where they focus on Karrablast and Shelmet evolving by trading. So the whole trade evolution is established in the region. It's just kind of unfortunate that they didn't do it with Bulldor. Then the fire type that replaced Ash's Pignite is Ash's Darmanitan. I really don't know what to say other than the fact that it just looks like an Ash Mon. If you wanted to give Ash more of a reason to have Darmanitan, you could have it to show off the Zen mode ability. I like the idea of Ash having a Darmanitan. You could even have it start out as a Darumaka if you wanted, and then evolve. But there's not really any logic behind it other than the fact that it looks like an Ash Mon. There's an episode dedicated to Darumaka and Darmanitan early in the series, so you could have that be the episode where he catches it, or it could just be another episode entirely. But that is going to do it for my Unova team episode. This was a lot to go through, because normally what I do when I look through what I could re-add to Ash's team that isn't on there normally, I take into consideration if it looks like a mon Ash would have, and try not to overlap with any of his traveling companions or his rivals unless it makes sense with the story. And since there are so many rivals in Unova, that it was a little bit more challenging to come up with that. But let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you would keep on Ash's team. Let me know what you take off of Ash's team. This is honestly the most challenging, and looking at it again, I'm surprised that Ash had two dark types in Unova. I completely forgot that Scraggy and Crocodile are both part dark, so it's a little bit wild to think that Ash has two dark types in Unova, since he very rarely had dark types. That is it for this episode, and I'll see you next time. Momentai.